Welcome to the Girl Dad Show.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Girl Dad Show. I am super excited to have Christine on the show today. Christine, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with me here today.
So excited to be here. This is like a fun reunion.
I know. I feel like I haven't talked to you in years, quite literally years,
Yeah,
and we haven't seen each other in maybe a decade.
it's
No,
been
more
that
than a
long.
decade.
Yeah, it's crazy that I run into people and I feel like, oh, it's been, it hasn't been, been a couple years, and they say it's been more than 10 years. And so the time has just like flown by.
Yeah, but I have very fond memories of being in batch three at 500 startups, and I think of you very fondly and associate with that experience. For whatever it's worth, it's really good experience for me. But I don't want to cut your intro short. So let's jump right into it. Why don't you tell the listeners what you do for a living and who you are?
All right. Well, as Young said, I'm Christine Tsai. I'm CEO and founding partner of 500 Global, which used to be called 500 Startups in the early days. 500 is a global venture capital firm. We primarily invest early, usually is one of the first or the first kind of institutional investor into a company. We like to build the relationships with founders super early, whether they're in the US or around the world. Today, we've grown into more than 2 billion in AUM. Portfolio is 3,000 companies and growing, and they represent 80 countries around the world. So we really value and continue to have conviction in the thesis we had very early, which was that great companies and iconic companies will come from all corners of the world, and we really want to find them.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's so fun to see how much you've taken this organization and grown it over the last apparently more than a decade. But I am curious, what led you before to 500? How did you get into venture?
I feel like I can start from kind of like when my professional career started, or I can start from
Yeah,
like when I was
please.
born, or when I was born, or even long before I was born, because I feel like all of those things have influenced that. But I guess
No
since we only
way.
have,
Wait.
we don't.
No, do the born thing. Now I'm curious. What about the
Oh, so
born
I
thing?
was
Yeah.
born with a term sheet in my head. No, I, well, the reason I say that, it goes back to even before I was born, because I think a lot of my love for venture and why I still get up in the morning every day excited about it is the love of technology. And I feel like a
Mm.
lot of that influence on being excited about tech and products, it really comes probably from when I say before I was born. I think of my parents, and in particular my mom, who took up computer science before it was, before it was really mainstream. It was like
Mm.
doing programming on punch cards, if you people
Yeah.
know what punch cards are. But since then, we moved to the mainland. I was, a lot of fortunately we moved to Silicon Valley, like to the Bay Area, and growing up in a household where there's computers around. My mom was worked in Silicon Valley as an engineer. So I think a lot of that early exposure, which is very unlike, I think, many of the founders that we backed, they didn't come from that kind of environment. And so I forget that, oh, it's really unique to be able to just be surrounded by technology. And I think that just led me to being really excited about the internet and products and building websites and kind of, on and on. And so that's, I think, fundamentally for early stage venture, I feel like if you don't really love technology and products, then it doesn't seem like it's a great fit. But I love, I love.
Yeah. It's so cool. And I will say that that's a huge component of how we grow up, like nature and nurture. But I do think that how you grow up is so powerful in what you do in life. And
Yeah,
I think that it has a huge impact on my life as well too. And so that's really interesting to hear you say that, because I think I've pivoted back into Main Street businesses because of
yeah.
my childhood and how I grew up. So it's kind of funny.
Oh,
But the punch
I
card
forgot.
thing before, go ahead.
Oh, I mean, I forgot. So I grew up in the Bay Area, and I forgot where you grew up. I'm sure you told me this.
I grew up in the Bay Area too. I was born in Oakland, but my dad my dad
Okay,
had
that's
a
right.
very typical immigrant story where we owned a little liquor store in Oakland,
Mm,
and so I
yeah.
grew up in a brick and mortar kind of very typical stereotypical Asian immigrant story. Yeah. So
Oh, yeah. I
yeah.
have a
So
number of those in my family. It's like, and they were even more stereotypical. They were in LA,
oh,
like
nice.
Koreatown.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's always been embedded in me as well too, watching my dad build these service businesses. And now that I'm older,
Nice,
I'm kind of reverting back to it. But
nice.
can you, before I go into the other stuff, I just have to know because I do know what these punch cards are. I had a mentor that was a old school engineer. Can you just like walk me because it is what I think it is, right? It's one of those paper sheets where they have the code is literally punched out in holes, and then you run the paper through the thing, right? And then that prints out, that's the code, right? Like that it reads.
Yeah. Like there was no, cursor or Claude Code and no like IDEs or Emacs or whatever you use to code.
Yeah.
Like it was, I can only say this secondhand because not like I had direct experience with it, but they were basically like paper cards and holes punched. I don't actually know what was used to punch the hole, to get to that point, but
Yeah.
effectively that's what you would put into the computer. And I remember my mom mentioning if one got out, it's just you drop them, then it's just like game over. Like it's all ruined. So
We've come
yeah,
so
yeah.
far. It's crazy to think about that, right? Can you imagine writing lines of codes and little hole punches? It's insane.
I wonder if the
Yeah.
analogy is like I mean, let's say writing papers, handwrite it or typewriter, and then now maybe you don't even write it. You have something generated for you, and then you maybe edit. There's human in the loop, but yeah, I'm sure plenty of analogies in other areas.
Yeah, totally. I love it. I definitely want to see one. I've heard about it and I've never actually seen it. I'm definitely curious. But I think they have one at the Tech Museum in Mountain View, so I'll have to go check that out. But
Yeah, the
yeah.
Computer History Museum. Yeah.
Oh, Computer History Museum. Sorry. Yeah, yeah. I misnamed it. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so now back on the regular show. Sorry, I got curious about the punch card. But on the journey, so then you grew up in it. You grew up in tech, and that's really cool that your mom did that actually, because isn't that kind of pioneering in a little ways? Like a female like society, like why is like a female engineer back then is also kind of unique too, isn't it?
I believe so. I mean, I don't have like specific data points on this, but just from what I was aware of, even within my own family and my friends, it was not common to have
Yeah.
your mom be maybe it wasn't so, and maybe where I grew up, maybe it wasn't so uncommon that the mom worked, but it was definitely
Yeah.
uncommon that they were in a technology, like in tech in a tech company and as an engineer or developer of all things. And I
Mm.
certainly within my Korean family, that was highly, highly unusual. So, but I didn't really think of it at the time. I mean, she was certainly like one of the few immigrants in her teams and let alone female. And so I'm sure there was quite a bit of a cultural gap that she had to adapt to. Thankfully, both my parents spoke English very well, even before they had me and my brother, before they met. So I'm sure that that helped. I know a lot of stories of kind of that a typical story like the immigrant dream, whether they're from Korea or Hong Kong, Taiwan. They come to the U.S. for a better life for their
That's right.
kids, and they
Yeah.
leave behind a more educated type of role to go into, like, they open a store or something that they would not have done back home, but because of the language barrier, but they still do it, for their families. And so very, very classic immigrant story.
Yeah. It's very cool. I love that. What that's
Yeah.
awesome. She sounds like a gangster. I love it.
Okay.
Yeah, she sounds like she's like a badass. That's great.
Oh, thanks.
And then what does your dad do?
My dad also, I actually think so the entrepreneurial side probably comes from him, because when
Mm,
my parents met in Guam. So they actually
mm,
both went to Guam, from Korea to Guam for different reasons. And it's sort of like Hawaii, where there's, a lot of Asians there. I mean, at
hmm.
the time,
That's
and
right. Yeah.
it was a common landing point or launch pad to get to the mainland US. And obviously Guam is US territory. But my dad was, kind of got his start in like kind of architecture and construction. And then when we moved to California, he actually opened his own firm, like his own kind of
Oh, wow.
contractor firm. So he always worked for himself. And it's funny now I think about it, as we're talking about this. Yeah, I mean, it's not a startup per se, but just more the fact of running your own business and entrepreneur
Yeah.
and all of the trials and tribulations of that. But at the time, I just knew, oh, dad, Appa has his own company, mom works at Intel, and it just seemed very normal to me.
Yeah. That is a startup. That's awesome. That's so
Yeah.
cool. So you had an engineer, technologist mom, and you had an entrepreneur dad.
Yeah, it's a good combination, I guess.
Very good combination. You're all right. It is pre-born. You were basically getting ready for this before you even were born. That's
Yeah.
lovely. Yeah. Okay. So then now let's go to the next step. So then what were you doing before you became the CEO of 500 Global?
Well, most of my career, or actually all of my career, was in Silicon Valley and in the Bay Area. So I went to Cal, go Bears. When I graduated, it was a terrible time in
Oh yeah,
the Valley, and just it was the right the dot-com boom and bust. And
that's right.
I worked at a small software company uh a few months after I graduated, and that was a bit more of like, I'll just take some, get some job, right? So it was a
Yeah.
small software company that was still like kind of family owned, but it was a pretty big business. It's just more that they never raised capital. It was all
Mm.
all owned by the family. It was, I have a vague memory of what I did. It was probably not very glamorous. I didn't, it's a 21-year-old
Yeah.
clueless person.
Yeah.
And then I about was there for a few months, and then I moved over to one of the few tech companies I was hiring at the time, which was Google. And I remember I loved Google. I used it in school, and I thought like, oh my gosh, if I want to work on the internet and tech, this is the place to be. It wasn't Yahoo, it wasn't anything else. And so I went there, and then I was there for most of my early career, like 7 years. And when I joined the
Mm.
company, it was 2003. So about
Oh,
a year before.
wow.
A year before they went public, and the company I think was maybe still less than 1,000 people. And then when I left in 2010 to start 500, it definitely exceeded five figures. I don't quite remember the exact number, but during that time, I think a lot of what influenced me to then leave and go into venture and start 500 was really the um, ability to work on platforms that a lot of developers used, or publishers used. And I think at some point I started to realize, oh, there's startups, or maybe they were .coms startups, and the prospect of working with them, to any of them could be building like the next Google or the next YouTube, which also was at YouTube for a bit. So somehow I always found myself on that side of the business. I never worked on
Yeah.
any Google consumer products. It was always developer facing or publisher facing. So I think that kind of started to get me interested more. And then I realized about this thing called venture. Didn't quite get that you have to like generate returns. I just thought, oh, venture, you get to work with these early stage, really, really early developers. And it seemed
Yeah.
that like that's what I was drawn to.
So funny. So when do you feel like you learned what venture meant, like the actual mechanics of the business?
I think I started to pick up on it through, so I was really fascinated by it. I think a lot of it was at the time, this is like mid 2000s, VCs didn't, it was a very small industry for one thing, and it was not very transparent. And the couple or one or two people that would actually blog about it, and it's not like today where
Yeah.
everybody's on X and building their own brands and they use AI
Yeah.
to generate content. It was like Blogger.
Yeah.
So Fred Wilson was one of the early
Yeah.
OG
Yeah.
bloggers, and he would write all about being, he was on the board of Twitter and a lot of great companies, Zynga, and then he would talk about company building. And I cold emailed him, in 2007 or so, and asked him to come speak at Google. And back then, getting an email from someone at Google probably was more, you would get noticed more than today. He actually responded to a cold email, and that was like an example of how I just started cold contacting people in venture, just because I was very interested in
Hmm.
just learning about it. And biggest takeaway for me, I think, was that everyone has different backgrounds. I didn't get too much about like a lot of the mechanics on the fundraising and starting a fund and everything else. So I think a lot of that I kind of learned after the fact. But
Yeah.
yeah, so
Like a
that's
true startup founder. I love it.
yeah, yeah. I remember
Yeah.
hearing from some, there's a lot of, during that era of Google, there were so many amazing people that came out and started companies or started, became great investors in that kind of early 2000s era. I remember one of them mentioned, she went on to, be an entrepreneur, CEO, and now is an investor. But she would take customer calls, and they would ask her for, I forgot what term it was, but they would ask her for like an SO, like a term sheet or like a LOI, and then she didn't know what that was, so she was like, and then she would be Googling like, what is this? Yeah.
Fake it
So
till you
yep, you're
make it.
right. Yeah, fake.
Yeah.
Yep, yeah. That's
That's right. That's how early stage startups are sometimes, you just got to
yeah,
keep moving forward and just futz through it and figure it out as you go.
yeah.
So now that you're in this position, and obviously there's a lot of trials and tribulations through it, have you ever asked like your kids like what they think you do for a living? Do they have any comprehension of the scale and scope and of like what you're building and the purview of your domain and your role?
They've definitely had a lot of exposure just from, I mean, I would say like meetings they overhear me on. And I think especially during the pandemic when everyone was at home, they would, not a
Hmm.
lot of space to hide. But
Yeah.
I think if I were to ask them, I'm sure they would be able to say in a very high level, like, mom, invests money or gives money to people, and then the companies they grow, and then maybe she'll get money back. And then sometimes I've heard them spouting off like GP, LP, the company, but I don't know if they quite know to that level of detail. So but it makes me think. I should when they get home, I'll ask them. So,
Yeah,
can you
please.
explain what mom does?
Yeah. Tell me what you think I do. Yeah. I'm actually really curious too. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll try
That
that.
is funny. Yeah, please do. And have you talked to your parents about what you do and what do they think about where you're at?
Well, so I think they have a general idea as well, although there is always kind of like so what happens when the company, a company is XYZ, right? And so I think they might be potentially at the same understanding as my kids, although maybe a bit more, but I think that I remember, when I was going to leave Google and go, start this thing, they were very, very nervous and very like, because they don't know the world. They know of like they know what Google is. They know that's at least at that time seemed like kind of safe, big company, growing company. And then they're like, you're gonna go, start this thing with some person that I don't know, and like,
Yeah.
but I think today they get it. I think also, especially as I took over as CEO, like now no, not 7 years ago. How long has it been? Why is my math so terrible? It's like 9 years ago, actually.
Mm.
So I think even then, I think there was parents always worry about their kids. They especially worry about their youngest daughter, right? So, but now I feel like I'm sure that they're proud because my dad will stalk me on LinkedIn and
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, and he'll ask me, "Oh, I saw on LinkedIn or I saw on the social media about XYZ." And sometimes he knows before I do because the 500 team will post things on the 500 channel and I don't even see it, and
Yeah.
he sees it right away.
Oh, he has it on. He has the alert on. He's watching you.
Maybe.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
love
he has an
it.
alert set up.
Yeah, that's awesome. Oh, dads will still be dads. I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
So they like what you do and they don't may not grasp the concept of what you do, but they definitely love it. That's good.
I think so. I feel like at this point, I think they have some idea. I don't know if they know the inner workings, of course, but I think they will always, they'll never stop worrying about their kids. Probably much like we will never stop worrying about
Yeah,
our kids,
I know.
but I think they're proud, which makes me
I
happy.
know. That is good. Yeah. I agree with you. My mom is like so like that. Like I could literally win the Nobel Peace Prize and she would literally be like, "Yeah, okay, that's great. Are you eating healthy and
Yeah,
are you happy?" You know what I mean? Like that's what a response would be, like, and I'd be like, "Mom, can you please like take a minute and focus on what I'm trying to tell you?" And she's like,
I
"Okay, okay,
know.
honey." Yeah.
I think my parents like perpetually think that we are hungry. Like we can cook. I mean, maybe not great, but we have kind of a rotation of meals. And then my mom, like, I think she's just like, no, like I'll make you. And actually, just today, she brought over a big jar of soup and
That's awesome.
for what is it, the tteokguk, like
So cool.
beef
Yeah.
soup. She's like telling me how to heat it up, and I'm like, I know, but I think it's it's just sort of like, I'm sure she knows we can cook ourselves, but she just like, but I can't help it. I must make sure you are fed,
Yeah.
real food.
Yeah. We'll always be their babies. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, much like
I
our
know.
little ones.
I know. Do you think you'll be like that as well?
I'm not a very prolific cook. So that part I don't know if I would be that
Mm-hmm.
useful, but there probably is. Yeah, it's funny, like growing up, you think about you can either go both ways. Like you can either be like, I'm not going to do what my parents did, or you maybe you think the other way. I think by and large, it's usually like, oh, my parents didn't understand me, especially the immigrant, if there's an
Oh
immigrant
yeah.
gulf, and as like first generation kids, and then
Yeah.
you think, I'm not going to do that, but then you do it.
Yeah.
It's hard to unwind. You can't get that out of you, but so we'll see. I think one thing I do appreciate with our kids is that given the ages that they're at, you always think, oh, they're gonna not. This is when their view of their parents starts to decline because they have their own lives and getting
Mhm.
older. But then I do find it, I do find it fortunate that I think for both of them, that, we still have a very close relationship, and they certainly will tell us things that I can't imagine I would have told my parents at that age as like a
Yeah.
teenager, right?
Yeah.
So that's good.
That is good. And I see it more as like I totally know what you mean, by the way. Like how you want to like do the opposite pendulum of like how you're raised and then you end up replicating it. It's called trauma, Christine. It's called PTSD and trauma.
Yeah, even like even with let's say, my kids are a little bit far off, there's some years, but the older one, it will be getting, actually maybe a lot of the kids are starting to think about like post high school and college, and then
That's right. Yeah.
thinking about don't want to pressure them one way or the other, especially given like who knows like what's going to happen with
AI in the
colleges
world.
and
Oh,
yeah.
colleges, got it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it at the same time, I wonder how we'll be in terms of like where what they choose to study or what they want to
Hmm.
do. So I don't know. We'll see.
Do you have a secret wish, like of what you want them to do? Obviously, you're going to support them and their dreams and passions, but like inside of your heart, is there something you're like, oh man, that'd be awesome if they did that?
I genuinely want them to pursue something that they are excited about. So I would hate for them to be like, oh, I'm gonna do this major because my mom or my parents wanted me to. And we really don't tell them like, oh, you should really consider
Hmm.
engineering or being a
Hmm.
doctor. Unlike probably everybody's immigrant parents, right? They'll be like, oh, you should be great if you're a doctor. Or and my parents actually didn't push me on the
Really?
doctor part. No, no, no. They never pushed me on the doctor path. I think they felt like, oh, being a doctor is pretty hard. But I on that
So
note,
un-Korean of them. I
it's
love it.
uncool. But I think for my kid, I genuinely nothing really comes to mind of like, oh, I really want them to be in this major. But
Hmm.
I probably do think if they wanted to pursue something that I probably myself found very, like maybe very either very technical or like not as easy as other subjects, then I would be kind of like, they did that. But I wouldn't necessarily go say you are going to be a math major or you are going to
Yeah.
be some science or engineering major. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. That's awesome that you're taking that stance of just like letting them explore and find what makes them happy. That's great.
Yeah. Well,
Your
famous last
pendulum.
words, but
Do you have a secret wish though? Like without swaying them? Like if you have like a thing? Because like for me, I will tell you, I'm not gonna sway them. I'm gonna support them in whatever they do. But deep down inside, I would love it if they were musicians. Like I would love
that's amazing.
that. Yeah.
Deep down. I mean, I think that just seeing how the two of them, how they what they seem to gravitate to or gravitate towards. My older one, I actually feel like there might be something in the science. I don't know what,
Mm.
but it just seems because he seems to really enjoy it and maybe there's something with science and math, but the younger one, I feel like he is very creative, constantly drawing and actually
Mm.
having met a lot of people in that industry, I mean not a lot but like a handful that more than I would have ever met otherwise that
Yeah.
either have produced movies or animation. I've learned that there is a role for the thing that he seems to do, which is character art.
Yeah.
So I feel like maybe his dream job would be to design the new hybrid dinosaurs for the Jurassic World franchise, which I bet will still be going by the time he's older.
They're actually good, by the way. So yes, you're absolutely right. The new franchises are actually really good. I like the new ones better than the old ones.
Yeah.
That's awesome, and it's absolutely true. Yeah, so that is a absolute industry and role. So that's awesome. Cool. That's great. So it sounds like you want them to be happy and passionate about what they do, deep down inside.
I think so. Like ultimately it's maybe less about what ultimately intrigues them, but I think the bigger thing is just more that they have a lot of those skills that feel like will serve them well in life and are probably like cause a lot of parents and kids a lot of anxiety or frustration about like agency. I mean, there's
Hmm.
probably a lot of theories on people feeling like this generation is too pampered or not pushed enough or things are done
Yeah.
for them, but I do want to ultimately, whatever they, however, wherever they choose to go or wherever life takes them, that they do feel like they have kind of agency. They understand hard work. I'm
Hmm.
still big on like, you need to put the work in, like do, like discipline, got to go at it every day. And that they feel like even if they start out maybe being not good at something or um struggling, that they really like push and work through it, like so basically like kind of growth is really having that growth mindset and then
You push them
yeah,
through the gritty parts. That's like,
it depends. Like I feel like sometimes, depending on what the situation is, which kid,
yeah.
it's a little bit of pushing them through, and some of it is like they've learned to do it, and they'll pursue something and really be motivated to do better. Maybe
Hmm.
there's peer pressure, so having good peers around you is important.
Yeah.
But I think also the other thing is I don't know if there was anything when you were growing up that you were really excited about or and you would just learn on your own. I think that
Hmm.
curiosity is really um and like really loving the love to learn something because you just really passionate about it versus oh I'm going to do this because it's good for college. I don't know how
Hmm.
you teach that, honestly. I think you can do things as a family. You can, I don't know, but that's like the one thing I think it's hard. I struggle with, how do you teach just genuinely actually caring and being interested about anything, right? So
Yeah. It's a
yeah.
really good point. I don't know how to teach that either. And it's even hard to teach grit, to be honest with you. I'm still struggling to figure out how to like teach perseverance because I have two girls and like I'm not gonna lie, like they have me wrapped around their fingers. Like I'm I'm like the worst dad in the world. Like
Oh.
yeah, like I give in like by the third or fourth like ask, I just give in. I'm just like, okay, here's my wallet. What are we buying? You know, like I
You're
just yeah, like what are we doing? Let's do this. I'm so excited. What are we doing? You know, and like yeah, I'm
Do you feel like
terrible.
when you see them, it could be an activity or in school, if they're like, I don't want to do it, and, or do you tend to be like, no, keep doing it, like you're gonna do it, or more like, okay, it's hard, like it's hard to find that balance.
There are moments where I do put my foot down, and yeah, it's subjective, right? But there are moments where I put my foot down and say, hey, listen, like you have, it's okay to cry. We can sit here and cry for 5 minutes, but once the timer's up, we're gonna get back on and try it again. You know, and like I there are
Mm,
times where I do that, right? And I'll let them like time box it, get them. You can cry, we can hug, we can yell, so we can scream, but we're gonna do this again, and we're not gonna stop until we try again. But there are also times where I'm like, yeah, it sucks, and I get that. You know, let's give it a break for today. But I don't ever let them stop. So say I do say, hey, we're gonna do it again next week, or we're gonna try it again next month. But like I do make sure that they try it again, and it's okay to not want to do something, but they shouldn't do it because it was hard the first time. They should try to at least improve themselves and practice before they fully give up on it. But I try. Sometimes it'll be 5 minutes, sometimes it'll be a week, sometimes it'll be a day, sometimes it'll even be a month. But I don't I don't let them stop until
yeah.
they've tried a couple of times and then truly go, man, I really don't like this or I suck at this, you know?
Yeah, but you're right. It's so hard to. You can do those types of things, and I think those philosophies are good. Like you can't quit if you sign up for the season, at least finish the season or whatever it is. But then ultimately, where does that sense of resilience and grit and just you're going to keep going and keep going? It's hard to. You can kind of
Balance,
teach by
totally.
setting the example, but then I don't know.
It's
It's
so
hard,
hard.
especially in this day and age where it's it's not like you're coming from how we grew up versus how our parents grew up, and then how
I
we grew
know.
up versus how our kids grew up.
I know.
It's very different.
It's a blessed world now. Yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
there's no consequences of like physical harm or death, you know, like there may have been for our
Yeah.
parents. And so, yeah, it's a lot harder because it's kind of a really good world right now. And so, you know, the consequences are very minimal. So it's hard to push them
Yeah.
into these, you know, moments of grit, you know, because it's like worst thing that's going to happen is they don't play soccer anymore. Like, oh no, you know, like who cares, you know, but I know what you mean. It's very tricky to
Hmm.
figure out what battles you're going to battle, but let me jump back into some of these questions. So, if you were to say what this next stage of success looks like for you in business, what would you say your goals are for the next 5 to 10 years?
Oh my goodness. Well, I think so, with the firm, or with 500, this is our 16th year. So it is
Wow,
really crazy to think that it's been over a decade and a half, and we're actually getting closer to 20 years. And the firm has evolved so much since the
so
very
much.
beginning, and since you were, when we had the privilege to invest in your company, like way long
Yeah,
ago. I think with your cohort, I had just had my first kid, so it was just like crazy time, crazy
yeah,
times going on.
crazy time. Yeah,
So, and I think about how the firm has evolved, and then how I've changed as a person, as an investor, as a CEO. And I think, I mentioned before, one thing that still gets me up in the morning is really, it goes back to our founders and technology and just how much has changed, especially today. I even think back a few months, and like the landscape is so different even a few months ago, just with how the sheer velocity at which technology is evolving. And it's not just technology, it's like it's how companies are built, how venture, how venture is, and even with AI specifically, how it is transforming like everything around us. It's not just a tech thing, it's really a, you know at the national sovereign level, it's just like humanity at large. So it's such a
yeah,
big concept, much more than say like the advent of social media, right? Or
totally.
mobile, right? It's, I mean, obviously mobile phones was pretty game changing, but not like people were talking at the sovereign level on having mobile phones. It was just still sort of a
Yeah,
tech product. But so when I think about that, and then how success looks like for the next 5-10 years, I do think there's some element of constant, whereas kind of our roots are really backing early companies, being first believers into non-consensus companies. There's a lot of consensus investing these days. Everyone wants to get into that hot
Hmm.
frontier lab, or everyone wants Anthropic these days. I've learned. So there is like the constant of backing great
So
ideas and
funny.
great companies.
Yeah.
But then I think also for me, I do think about like, you often get this question of like, what does success look like for yourself or for the firm? I can certainly think about for the firm just continuing to grow and in AUM and returns that we have, and great companies and footprint around the world, all those things, and being able to even expand into different types of asset classes or whatever. So there's a ways in which the firm itself grows and really stays true to our mission. But then I guess I know you're asking more about like me as a person. It's a really good question, because I think, now when we started 500, I was like, what, um 30 seems young. Like
Yeah.
maybe about to turn. We were
Yeah, we were
kids.
kids. We were kids. Yeah.
Yeah, and
It's
as we learned,
crazy.
you're 1 month older than me, right? So,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we were
but
kids.
I think about like, it's like, didn't have kids at the time. 16 years later, now I have two kids and they're growing. I do still feel excited about everything, but then I'm also kind of like, what is the legacy in terms of like what really matters, I guess. Because 16 years
Mm,
later, you have been through a lot of stuff. I've been through so many things,
so many
and
things.
then you start
Yeah.
to become less patient for things that don't matter or waste your time. So I do fundamentally feel like success is being able to build really strong trust with like really valuing people and relationships. And whether they're the founders you back or the investors who trust you with their capital to steward your own team and partners, and really you spend so much time at work. I mean, or not at work, just on your professional side, the line blurs.
Yeah.
So it's just like, it's not worth it when you're doing it with people that you really want to make sure
Spending
you
time
feel
with
like,
meaningful people.
exactly,
Yeah.
maybe share the same values. They don't have to be like you, but I
Yeah.
think that's the part that's the most gratifying, at the
Yeah.
end of the day or end of your life, or when you think about that. And that certainly includes your family as well.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's a
I feel
great
like that's what's important, I think.
That's a great segue, and I completely agree with you. And I think it's just the timing of our age too, because I think it's a lot of like what midlife is, where we start to
Hmm.
realize that like time is the scarcity. Where before, I think we were so busy learning how to be good at what we do, and then now that we're good at it, it's kind of like only thing that matters is the people and the time that we have with them. And so I'm kind of in
Yeah.
the same boat. Like I don't really have time for people that I don't like. I'm kind of like, just like I know
Yeah.
how to make money. I'm pretty good at what I do. I know enough people to get things done, and I just want to work with people that make me laugh and make me, happy. And so why not? And so I think it's right. I think you're right on. I think right on the money. I do have a second question, which is a great segue because the way you ended it, because it does segue into family. Do you have the same question, but for being a mom? What's success look like for you in this next 5 or 10 years?
There's kind of that trope. I don't know if the trope is the right word to call it, where, people, especially there's a sense of like, you're a good mom or not like a bad mom. And there's a little bit less of like, are you a good dad or not? But so there's sort of like this sense of like whether you're good or not. And I think it's so, I feel like even that is so lame, honestly.
Lame. Yeah,
I don't know what
exactly.
else. I mean, like stupid, or like kind of like a contrived notion of like that there's good or bad moms. I mean, obviously there might be actually bad moms or bad parents that do
Yeah.
illegal things or abandon, like stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I think in terms of like success, I actually kind of think of it from what my kids' perspective would be. Like, did they feel like I was always there for them? Now, obviously, as in the work that we do, we're balancing our work and raising a family, and the thing that gets probably fall by the wayside is time for yourself. I don't even know what that
Mhm.
means, honestly. But I think that even, with me and like my, like traveling, or if I'm not home, regardless of that, I would want to, I think I would feel success if my kids felt like I was always there for them, or I was really engaged and in tune with what they were doing, which I think you can do even if, like say you do have to spend time on the road. So if you were to ask them that now, I guess I would hope that I more based on like input I get from them. This is sort of like based on like what I or not input output I get from them. What I mentioned earlier. I still feel like they'll share a lot of things with us and still feel close, and maybe that's a good indicator of that. But I think I would feel like they. I don't want them to feel like they owe us anything, or that you have to, do this because mom and dad did this for you. Like, that's like, you don't want to live like that either. Like, you
Hmm.
owe them something. Like, they don't owe us anything, right? I mean, it's just more that, again, like, I hope that if they were to if they were to say that, mom and dad were always there for us, they always had my back, and I could go to them with anything, and then I feel like that's success.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
You're like
You
so
feel a little like
un-Korean. I know, I love
un-Korean.
it. I'm just teasing you. I had to make light of a serious situation. It was beautiful. Yeah, it was beautiful.
I know, there's probably like different views on parenting, like from whatever culture, and there probably is more of this sense of like filial piety and obligation that's maybe very Confucius era, which I think doesn't always, sit well with like kind of like the American culture. But so there's like some aspects of that that are valuable. Obviously, like, it's not bad to think like you should care, respect for your parents and all that, but I think it's there's probably a bit of a balance. I think, like, your
Yeah,
family versus like you as a person. But yeah, I still stand by what I said. I don't want them to
it's
feel like,
beautiful. Yeah, it's
they're doing all
beautiful.
these things because of us, right? So
I love that. Yeah, that's a great answer. I think it's wonderful. And I think that that's something that I aspire to be like as well, too, as I think about my chapters as well. So beautifully said.
hmm.
All right, let me bring this home. So I like to make sure that I ask the same questions to every guest. I'm going to ask you the rapid fire questions, and then we'll get you on your way. So question number one piece of advice that you have for other parents or soon to be parents.
I feel like I have to think about this. One piece of advice I would say: always remember to enjoy even the hard moments,
Hmm.
and really lean in. I feel like, even when you think about infant childhood hard times, like,
Yeah.
there's something to like embracing the pain.
I know. I know. I
Yeah.
know exactly what you mean, actually. It makes me like sad thinking about it, but like they're growing up so fast. It's like so annoying that I would even like go back to the most stressful moments when they're having tantrums or pissed off just to like relive that moment again because they're so old and they're too cool for me now. And I'm like, oh
Yeah.
man, I wish I really leaned in better, instead of being so frustrated
Yeah.
in those moments. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I would take those moments back any minute right now in a heartbeat. Yeah. So I know exactly what you mean. Is there anything that you were surprised to learn about yourself after becoming a parent?
I think that I think there's probably some more eloquent way to say this, but more of like what you're capable of, right? Because
Mm,
I think before having kids, especially as, as the mom who has to physically carry them for 9 months, you don't know what to expect, especially with the first one. And then afterwards, like, people think it ends. I used to kind of think, oh, I just want to get through the labor. I was like the most terrified of labor for some reason. And then
yeah.
but then not realizing that, no, there's like, you still have to, there's like a lot more ahead, right? And like, you realize it doesn't end like with the labor. So
Yeah.
I think it was probably more of like, there's a lot of things I just didn't know I was capable of, that turns out, it turns out it turns out I am,
Yeah.
whether it's specific to raising the kids, or if the kids are going through the hard times, or the things you will like get very, very like angry about that have to do with your kid, or how that
Yep.
connects to how you carry yourself in professionally. So yeah.
Good. Yeah. Your capacity is definitely larger than you could ever imagine. That's for
Yeah, that's a
sure.
better way to
Yeah.
put it. Yeah.
I love that. Do you have a favorite book or podcast that you'd like to share?
I listen to a lot of different pods, and of course Girl Dad is a great series. It's a lot of fun and personal. Books as well. I know that I do actually quite like, I think a lot of people listen to this pod, but I do quite like Lenny's podcast, which
Mm,
is I think pretty well listened to by not just product people, investors and everything. I just kind of like how he carries
unpacks
the
things.
conversation,
Okay.
and I actually like that he generally doesn't have a lot of investors on the show, because we are not that useful. It's people who actually like build and operate, but it's always a fun one to listen to.
Oh man, I love that. That's going to be a great little Instagram clip. You saying
Or, like,
that. That's going
investors
to
are
be
not
good.
that useful.
So good. All right, to bring us home, last question. When you're not running 500 Global and being an awesome mom, what do you do for fun? What are your downtime activities?
I enjoy spending time watching or falling asleep to Netflix or HBO Max shows. It's kind of it's just sort of a lame thing. But the better answer would be that I would be in dance class. I grew up as a dancer, and I just have not been back to a dance class in a while. That should change. But I grew up with ballet, contemporary, so I would always, for me, very familiar and comforting to go back to the bar. So I would like to say that. I just can't say that, genuinely, because I haven't been in a
Yeah,
while.
that's
But the other
so cool.
one thing that I have been taking up, and I feel like this has been in the last few months, and it's really been an investment in me, is running. So that's been, I do try to make time for that. I'm a terrible runner. I always hated running, but I kind of thought, I need to invest into my physical well-being, and I'm going to take the one thing that I really hate doing and then get myself to actually enjoy it. So, and I think I've turned that corner. So
Wow.
we'll see. I'm going to run my first K in a long time next month. It's something that the school district does.
Wow. Good for
So yeah,
you. That's amazing.
thank you.
Congratulations on that. That's fantastic. I'm rooting for you on your school fundraiser. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
however long it takes for me to finish, but
Doesn't
it's
matter.
been good.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Two great things. I didn't know about the dance thing. I'm really excited about that.
Oh, how could you
Um,
not know about the dance thing? Weren't you in
I must
the
have forgot. Yeah, I don't
you must
know.
have blocked it out of your memory because your batch did the music video reenactment to Thriller, and I taught the choreography. But
I do
maybe
remember that. I do remember
okay,
you
okay.
teaching us that. Yeah.
But maybe you were like, oh, maybe she just really likes Thriller. Like, what kind of a
Yeah.
loser memorized the choreography?
Do you still have that video?
I can find it. It's
It's
somewhere.
okay. Yeah. I mean, if it comes up, I'd love to see it. That'd be so funny to post on LinkedIn. That'd be so awesome. What a
Yeah.
great memory. Well, Christine, this was awesome. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk to me about parenting and business and life. And I appreciate catching up with you on air.
This is so much fun, and I do like the girl dad neon sign. I'm gonna have to get a boy mom because I have to
Yeah.
flip, right? Have
Yeah.
two boys.
Yeah. It's kind of fun, right? A little punchy. Yeah. A
Yeah.
little accent, gives a little
Yeah.
flavor to your business meetings.
But I feel like girl dad is like a cool. It's a thing. Like people use it. I don't see anyone saying boy mom.
Because they're too tired. That's why they don't say much.
Probably because I don't know how people react to you when you say, "Oh, I have two girls." They're probably like, "Oh, wonderful," right?
Yeah,
I
exactly.
do not get that reaction. It's usually like, "You must be tired," or
You must be tired, yeah, because they're destroying everything, yeah, or eating the
yeah,
whole house down,
yeah.
yeah. Well, Christine, we'll talk soon, okay? Thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, talk soon.
Thanks for listening to the Girl That Show.